Greetings, ground crew. I don't know if you can see this very well. I just wanted to do a really quick explanation again of the difference between law and legal, lawful and legal. And you can see a big circle, and I've got the colour of law, and in the middle we've got rule of law. So I'm going to go on the other side and try and explain it to you. Let me just pull it down a bit. There we go. All right. So we've got the matrix, okay? I'm going to try and explain this really quickly. So when we video ourselves, we can't, normally you look at yourself, don't you, in your camera and you can see your angle. So I've got it around the other way so you can see the writing the right way. So we've got the matrix that we all live in. It is the colour of law, it's legislation. Since 1871, Act of Settlement, lawyers came into Parliament. And in the middle, we've got rule of law. Now, rule of law is 400 years old. 1689, rule of law was declared, and what it meant was that you had to consent to the legislation. So we have inalienable rights as humans. We have human rights. Who would have thought? There are laws under God, so no one can step in the way of that. And we're in a very grey area of law right now. The police don't know the law. Even lawyers are confused right now because ScoMo has said, oh, no, like federally, we're not going to deal with this. And it's quite apparent that we are not under the Constitution. They have navigated their way away from it, and we are trying to hold them to it in the 1900 because nothing after the 1900 can move it, but that's all the other stuff. All right, so within the matrix, you've got things like corporations, persons. Now, we have been trapped by language, okay? You've got to remember that. It's a vibration. So person, child, body politic, entity, citizens, politics, legislation, police, fines, banks, mortgages, tax, TV, the illusion, the 3D illusion is the matrix, right? Words like mandatory and required, they're just... Legalese has been a big part of language, and it's really twisted things out of shape. Since lawyers came in on all of this law stuff is where things went wrong. So it's probably time we moved them out. Lawyers registered with the bar. Now, rule of law, 1689, all are equal before the law. Probably most people don't know that inside of this matrix, for over 800 years, everyone has been born into guardianship via the birth certificate. If you're not aware of that stuff, I would suggest going and doing some research on the birth certificate. Unum Sanctum 1302. They've been making poor laws since 1535. They've ongoing made them, which is sort of now the Centrelink and stuff like that. And it was bound into the settlement certificate and the birth certificate. So for a long time, people have been trying to figure out how to get out of the matrix, right? And we've spent all our time down here with all these options, like the organic commonwealth is still alive and well, but unoccupied and has been unoccupied since 1966. You've got being a private person, filing your paperwork on the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code, and then registering your property up onto the PPSR, which is the Private Property Security Register in Australia, and you become creditor on your estate, your birth certificate estate. Because right now you're debtor, right? You get the fine, you have to pay. They take it off your birth certificate, your trust. You've got the common law, 1611, King James Bible, God's law, and you've got common law, old common law. That actually sits underneath the Vatican. That is like, and yeah, it's jury of 12. The concept's great. Coming off of this now, you've got States Assembly, which is quite popular in America, and they've got ID and what have you. And that's Anna von Reitz. I think Kim Gogan's involved with that. They're promising lots of money, Then you've got the crown people that are going on about sovereignty, crown on the head, which is really kind of tied in with the Bible and God's law. You've got being a postmaster, so that's collapsing your trust, doing a live claim, going into joinder with Russell, learning syntax and quantum grammar. General Postmaster sits, the Federal Postal Court is the highest court in commerce. We haven't had a Postmaster General in this country since 1967. You've got something called Customary Rights, So I've already done a video on this. House of Commons, House of Lords. Things that are not caught into those two places are churches, universities, and private people. Don't pay tax, okay? So customary rights comes under using your coat of arms, or if you're tribal, you would use your customs. And so that has quite a solid standing. You've got another thing called the DSD, which is the Divine Sovereign Decree, and that is taking your soul back from unum sanctum. So that's a lot of work to drop this. Does it help you get out of fines and stuff? Not really. It's a lot of work and quite expensive for not much return. And then, of course, you've got the Amish, which is 100% out. So we've all been faffing around with this stuff for years, but it's still essentially inside the system. So we want to come out of that. We want to stop spinning around with dropping our last name, or the last name, if it's block, if it's lowercase. It's all to do with the trust, and I can go deeper into that later. But essentially, if you just stop racing around doing all this stuff and come into rule of law, all are equal before the law, that really sort of sorts out whether it's, lawful or legal. And right now what's going on is not lawful. It might be legal, but it's not lawful. Anyway. And of course, as we move forward into the quantum, whether we like it or not, that's where we're going, there will always be trust law and contract law, which is equity, because we are the equity. So really quick explanation. Got no idea what it looks like, so I hope that helps.